now we're gonna move on to my comics pile. So a lot of these are a lot of independent comic artists that I found through like Instagram, Facebook, or whatever. Some of them are Kickstarters that I backed or bought off their websites and stuff, and some other ones are like ones who produced like Image Comics and other publications like that. So first one is Power Knights by Keith Jones and Noble Ward. This is a comic by a guy I found on Instagram, I believe, and Keith Jones is really cool. He actually runs a Black Comics con in San Diego. He does it every year, and it's I actually never it's really cool. Look, he has a lot of great artists that show up and creators, and it's pretty popular out there. This comic is really dope. He did like all the artwork, colors, and all that. It's really, really cool. It's like essentially it's a comic that he was like a story he thought of as like a kid, and then he expanded it and actually produced it. But he does a lot of commercial work. He does like children's books and things like that. Most of his main stuff that he does. But he's a really, really dope artist. You can check him out. I think it's KID Comics, I think, on Instagram. And this is I think he might have some copies left, but I bought this a while ago. And it's just a super dope comic about like a teen, kind of like 90s vibes, kind of like era he kind of came up on. Super, super sick. Kenneth Jones, San Diego, California. It's really dope. The next one we're gonna look at is from TDJ Comics. TDJ, he actually did some of the colors for AWOL covers. He's a really, really dope artist. He has a really cool style, and he's like a really great colorist, and as well as just a straight up artist. He actually has a Kickstarter going on right now for the 3rd and 4th issues of this series Atlas, and he's just like overall just a really, really good artist, like somebody who has the ability to essentially do everything, right? That's what he has, right? He can draw, write, and color, and he's like a really, really good colorist. He does a lot of the colors for a lot of different comics that you've probably seen, like independent comics, and he's just really, really good at it. Like, look at these pages, like this is pro level stuff. I'm honestly baffled that he doesn't do it. Like, he hasn't been like produced through like a mainstream company. I don't know if he has any ambitions to do that, or what what the holdup is, or what but he, like, to me, he's like up there as far as just like a comic book artist goes, especially somebody who's like in these indie spaces. Like, look at these pages, like really, really sick. Yeah, you can check him out at tdjcomics.com, and also he has a Kickstarter running right now where you can get the 3rd and 4th issue, or the full trade, I believe, of Atlas. Next one is Air Rider High School Hero by Comic Ken. If you guys know him, he's on YouTube as Comic Ken. I've talked to him a few times online. He's a really dope channel. He talks a lot of stuff, comics and stuff. Right now he's working on a new webcomic, but this was his first comic he was working on a couple years ago. He has 2 issues of this out, and it's really, really dope. Hopefully he can get back and finish the story for this, but yeah, he's another one of those guys who's able to color and also draw really well. And yeah, this is a really cool, really, really dope comic. A lot of fun and great cartooning on here. Love the vibes. Yeah, go check him out, a Comic Ken, on YouTube and on Instagram. Give him a follow. Really, really, really dope guy and cool comic. These other ones. This is a comic from Image called Excellence, and essentially it's just like wizards, kind of like a Harry Potter, but the characters are essentially like blacks, to like black families. Really, really dope artwork from Kari Randolph, and then the artist writer Brandon Thomas. And it was just like a really, really fun, interesting read about like this family of line of like people, sorcerers, and they kind of keep their secret about their magical powers, and it's like how the main character essentially was supposed to be like this powerful legacy wizard, you know, from this powerful legacy line, you know, bloodline, and he's like not very good. Like he's like, it takes him a while to kind of get his powers and all this stuff, and then he ends up going like rogue against the family, and it's really, really dope. Carl Randolph is like one of my like favorites. He's a dope artist. And yeah, this series is really, really good. It was kind of deep and dense, you know, like the like the story and the art, like kind of like the understanding of what's going on. Like I'm not gonna lie, like the last, because I got there's like eight chapters or 12 volumes, and in the last like few I was kind of confused on what was going on, like because it goes through like multiple different timelines and there's all these crazy like time jumps and stuff, and it's kind of funny because of the like the character design, like the main character is like designed after like Michael B. Jordan, which is funny because when this came out, I think Michael Jordan was kind of like on this. I mean, he's just as popular now as he was then, probably even more popular. But it's funny how, you know, they kind of designed him after Michael B. But yeah, it's a cool, really, really cool manga or comic. You get, so these are available, I think, through Skybound and Image. Oh shit, really, really good. Next one is from the Brother Man, the relaunch of Brother Man. Guy Sims, Brian McGee, and Duab Anowible. They were, you know, one of the first like super popular black comics back in the 90s. They kind of got their first like the original Brother Man came out back then, and it was just like a huge hit, like a local underground hit. Actually had the original ones right here, and yeah, it was just like, again, like a hit underground. They were on like all like the 90s hit like talk shows and stuff, and then it was like a family thing. Like it was like the brothers, and they had like this printing press and all the whole nine. And then slowly they kind of stopped working on the comic for no, like, just because like family stuff, and then just kind of like, you know, they the like the artists and the writers kind of went on to do bigger things, like write, like Guy Simmons writes a bunch of like children's books, and same thing with Duab. He writes and draws a lot of like children's books as well. Works on like movies and animations and stuff. Yo, what's up, Ami? Thanks for stopping by, man. I really appreciate it. But yeah, so like this is a super dope. This is like the relaunch. They kind of revamped Brother Man in 2017. They did like a Kickstarter, went crazy, and they kind of like did like a whole backstory of like the big city stuff. And it's actually really, really good. I love the style and artwork in here, and then kind of the revamping of the whole entire story. You know, hopefully they can get back to doing this, but I don't see that really happening, just because they are like the main two people who work on this are like just busy doing like commercial work. Like I said, like they do like novels, children's books, animations and stuff. So it's like whenever I guess they got time, they will come back to doing Brother Man. But I love this like super extended perspectives and all this good stuff. Super, super, super sick. Yeah, and this is great colors as well. Like, look at that, that's fire. Yeah, that is, look at that. I love that perspective in the hand. That page is really sick. Just more fire stuff. Yeah. This is a cool comic, and this one's kind of hard to find also. Like, it's not in print anymore, so I was kind of lucky when I got it at a good price. It's really, really dope. All right, this is gonna, oh snap. I got a few more left, and then we'll get to drawing and working on that Ghost Rider piece. This one. It's cool. So this is Sentences by Percy Carey and Ronald Wimberly. Ronald Wimberly is like one of my favorite cartoonist artists. He's like a great writer and also dope artist. And this is a comic about MF Grimm, who was like a person who kind of helped MF Doom kind of get into the game. And it's about his story of like coming up and how he ended up in a wheelchair and all this crazy stuff. And it's really, really done, like drawn and written really well. Really great comic. Again, Ronald Wimberly is like a super dope cartoonist. Excuse me. And he definitely deserves a lot more work and do more comics. I don't know what I know he has like a newspaper that he does called Lab, and it's really, really cool. A lot of great articles and artists and comic strips and stuff in there. But I would love to see him do more comics. But yeah, this is like a just autobiography comic about M.F. Graham and kind of like his life and how he came up and all that jazz. And it's really, really fun. It's just a true story about somebody who I never really knew about. So again, it's fun to see these stories and kind of learn about people who are more influential than So that's Sentences. And then I got two more that I'm gonna show. This one is Bottoms 4 by Ben Passmore and Ezra Clayton Daniels. And this is essentially like a comic about like essentially the story is like about gentrification, but used as like a metaphor for gentrification, where like there's like this monster in this apartment complex that's kind of grown in the hood, and how it's kind of like destroying the area, which like again is like and the girl moved into that apartment complex, and again it's the metaphor for like gentrification and just kind of how that ruins the community and the cultures around it and stuff like that. It's a really, really good comic. Ben Passmore's a dope cartoonist. It's really simple, like layouts. It's like kind of like a webtoon-esque layout, but I like it. It was really fun, interesting read. Great colors. Like, look at that. I love that. And then last but not least, and this is a comic I've talked about a lot. I'm not really gonna look through too much of it, but this is a comic I recommend all the time for Black, stories. This is probably one of the top Black comics in mind that I've read. I feel like that's done, a profound job of making Black history and mixing up with fantasy, steampunk, and cyberpunk vibes. It's fully Black from beginning, middle, end. Writers, artists, all that. And that's Bitterroot. This comic, again, I've talked about this multiple times in my video essays. I recommend this to everybody. It's just a great story about just what about people whose hate can turn them into literal monsters, and how this Black family has to go about saving these people, and whether or not they want to save these people from turning into these monsters, and how they essentially just kind of have to deal with this, right? And this is like a metaphor for just like how Black people essentially have to live through every day in America. And this one starts in the Harlem Renaissance. They had a secondary follow-up story in the 60s, and I don't know what the next one's going to be, probably like the 80s or 90s, but it's really just super dope. Sanford Creed is a fire artist, and again, it's just like a really, really good comic. Great story, great metaphors. It also kind of goes through a lot of like Black history and intertwines it, like real life Black history, and intertwines it within the pages of the comic. They kind of talk about the Red Summer. They talk about the Tulsa Massacre, and do it in a way that makes sense in the story, but also doesn't like negate or disrespect that history in any way, right? It's really, really dope, man. So I would highly recommend picking up this omnibus off of Amazon. It's really worth it. I think so. And then after that, going to check out the follow-up series in the 60s, which kind of follows the like the Montgomery boycotts and all that stuff. And again, they kind of follow the monster hunters and how they go about doing all that. So yeah, Bitterroot, man, it's really dope. I think they're gonna do a Kickstarter for the next book iteration, which I don't know when that's supposed to come out sometime this year. I think they're still working. I know they announced it on the Black Comic Lords channel. So if you guys go check out their marathon, they did it, and they had those guys on there, and they're talking about how they're planning to do a Kickstarter, which is like an anthology of other creators, and they're going to do their own stories that represent it within the Bitterroot world.